Hey, everybody. I wanted to do a quick video to help you understand what you need to do for your paper. So give me just a second to share my screen with you. While I'm doing that, your paper, you have three options. You choose one. Do not do all three. They're all three due on the same day. They're all three it's set up exactly the same way. There's just different topics. So you choose the topic that you like the most, but just do one. In general, these papers run, let me see here. Yeah, you're probably easy, not including a cover page, which you don't really need, not including a reference page, which you don't really need. You are probably a good 5 to 7 pages double spaced of a paper. Easy. So this paper setup, some of you are going to have a problem with this, and it's okay. You do not have to cite. I know where you're getting your course information or your information. There is no reason to go outside of the textbook for anything. You do not have to cite. If you want to cite, because some of you will feel the need to cite in APA or MLA, totally fine, go ahead and do that. But it is not required. If you do cite and you make mistakes, I'm not going to penalize you. If you don't cite, I'm not going to penalize you. I am much more concerned about the content and application of course material than I am about you worrying about, are you citing something correctly? Okay. So if you want to cite, go crazy, knock yourself out, but you don't have to. So I'm going to walk through the adolescent chapter or the adolescent paper in kind of detail, but know that exactly what I'm telling you in the adolescent paper is what you should be doing in any of the three options. We'll talk about the other ones quickly, but I'm going to spend the most time on the adolescent one just because it's the first option. So all of the papers are set up the same way. The biggest rule of thumb, do what I ask you to do in the order that I ask you to do it, how I ask you to do it. Don't deviate from that, and you will do fine. Make it easy for me to see what you are doing. Okay, and we'll talk about that as we go. So paper option number one is on adolescence. You can either use your own self and your own adolescence, or if you know someone, you have a cousin, a sibling, whatever, that's a teenager that you want to use, you may interview them. That is fine. I don't care what you do. It is totally up to you. Most students that choose this option tend to just talk about themselves, and that's fine. Again, I'm not as concerned with who you use but I'm concerned about how you're applying course information. So the very first thing that you need to do, now let me back up here. In this first paragraph, I tell you that you need to apply course information. That does not mean saying to me, Erickson's stage of identity versus role confusion, and then not telling me anything else. It doesn't mean that you just state a term, a concept, or a theory. You need to tell me what it is that applies to the situation that you are discussing, explain it, and then give an example. So if you have to use Erickson in this paper, so you're going to have to use Erickson in every paper option. So when you tell me it's Erickson identity versus role confusion, tell me what that means. And that is more than one sentence. Tell me, what is the struggle? What is the conflict that the person is trying to figure out? Explain it as if the person reading the paper has never taken this class and does not know anything about this course. A way that you can check yourself to see if you are truly applying, have someone read the paper that's not taken the class, that's not familiar with Erickson or Piaget or whatever it is that you're talking about. Okay, you will lose points if you do not apply. If you just tell me that you're in puberty and you don't tell me something from the textbook, you're gonna lose points. I'm not gonna give you credit for it. I need to know that you understand. So here's how you set up the adolescent paper. The very first thing you do, if you're using yourself, tell me Yeah, I'm going to use myself. I am currently whatever age, but I'm going to talk about, if you're older, say I'm going to talk about my teenage years. Tell me in general what your thoughts are about your adolescent years. Was it difficult? Was it not difficult? Was it challenging? Why or why not? I am not looking for, yes, it was difficult, or no, it was not difficult. I want you to think about what your teenage years were like. If I'm way past teenage years, but if I was writing this about myself, I would say something like, the teenage years were really kind of mixed up. You went from being so very insecure to, or I did at least, very insecure, freshman year. But by senior year, I was much more confident that, the friend issues were difficult, and all of the things that come along with being an adolescent were difficult. I had friends that were using drugs. I had friends that tried to kill themselves. I had all kinds of things that went on, and those were a challenge. It was a challenge to work through things. You see, I'm not looking for one sentence. I'm looking for you to kind of talk about in general what your teenage years were like. For some of you, you might talk a page. You don't need to do that much. Maybe half a page or so. And then you should give me a heading that says physical, or physical terms, or physical concepts, or whatever it is, however you want to word it. Make it clear that you're going into the physical development. In there, you only choose two of the following to talk about. Talk about physical changes, things like hormones and puberty. Talk about body image, adolescent sexuality, sexual identity, substance abuse, and eating disorders. You may not choose anything outside of there. These are topics that are covered in your textbook, and you need to talk about, what does the textbook say about, for example, body image. It goes into a whole discussion about eating disorders and those kinds of things and what's behind that. If that applied to you, use it. Do not, in any paper, do not use things in the paper that does not apply. If you didn't have body image issues or concerns, don't use it. The idea is to apply course material that did apply. So I don't want to hear what didn't apply. You will not earn credit for that. Most students will choose like physical changes, and then depending on where they are, some might choose body image, some might choose sexual identity. If you struggled with your sexual identity, if you struggled with maybe understanding your sexuality, maybe you tried to come to terms with, or the realization of being gay, lesbian, bisexual, whatever. Talk about that. If it doesn't apply, don't use it. In all three papers, the physical section will be the shortest section. Honestly, the first page of your paper really should be telling me a little bit about yourself in the physical chapter. Okay. The bulk of your paper is going to come, for all options, it's going to come from the cognitive and social sections. For the adolescent paper, then, you must apply 4 cognitive terms and concepts. You must apply Piaget's stage of formal operations, and then 3 more of those terms. So Piaget's formal operations, and then pick 3: imaginary audience, personal fable, information processing, transition to middle or junior high school, to high school, and then extracurricular activities. Honestly, only use extracurricular activities if you can't think of examples of the other stuff. But I would say 99.999% of young people have an example of an imaginary audience and a personal fable. You might talk about the transition from middle or junior high school to high school, but imaginary audiences you will read about, or you already read about. Most people can come up with that. I can give you an example from my darling 13-year-old. It's a very teenage house right now, and the imaginary audience with her, of everyone is looking at her, is seriously, it's just one of those things. I have said to her more than a few times, she'll make a comment about people are always looking at her, people are staring at her. And, I've gotten to the point where I may say to her, and it sounds harsh. I'm not a mean mom, but it sounds harsh, but I might say, you're not that important to those people that you think are staring at you. They're not staring at you. But that's the imaginary audience idea, that every teenager thinks that everyone is staring at them, that they are on stage, all of that. Now you can't, obviously your example needs to be personal, but so in the cognitive section, you need to tell me about Piaget. What does formal operations mean? That is not one sentence. That is several paragraphs. Tell me what it means, and then give me an example of your life or the subject's life, whoever you're using, as to how you saw the change in formal operations. And then 3 more examples. The socials, the cognitive section, you're probably easily a page and a half to 2 pages, easy. If you are really truly explaining everything and giving good examples, you're easily a page and a half to 2 pages. And then the social section, let me move that just so it's all on one page. So the social section, every paper, including different ages, must include the Erickson stage. So tell me the appropriate Erickson stage. For this, it's identity versus role confusion. What does that mean? And then you have to have 3 others: self-esteem, identity, religious or spiritual development, parents as managers, attachment, whatever. Pick 3 that apply to you. I might look at, for my daughter, if I was using her, I might look at religious and spiritual development. I grew up in a church, she's grown up in a church, but she's starting to learn about, and I got to give her credit, she's doing research. She's learning about things like zodiac signs and crystals and things like that. And I let her explore that because it's a normal developmental thing with religious and spiritual development. How can I argue with a kid that wants to hold and have a crystal that is supposed to take away negative energy? I can't. You go, girl, do what you need to do. But that's part of religious and spiritual development for her. So I might use that in there, but I need to talk about, what does the book say about it? And then you need to explain what your spiritual and religious development was about. Your social section, again, easily a page and a half to 2 pages or more. So at the end, you will have a total of 10 terms and concepts: 2 physical, 4 cognitive, and 4 social emotional. 5 points for each one that you state in your paper. You define it or explain it correctly, and then you apply it to yourself for a total of 50 points. Except that your paper's worth 80. So I need to edit that a little bit. Yeah, your paper's worth 80. My pardon me for that one. That's my error there. Oh, excuse me. Your application papers are worth 75. So they'll be, whoops. There you go. They'll be 7.5 points each. So I apologize for that. Let me make sure that I had to change the point total on it. Just because it needed to fit something that we do for the department. So I apologize. If you have grammatical errors over 5 or other grammatical issues, you will lose points as well. Just hit spell and grammar check. I'm not really concerned about one little period here or there, or one, capital or whatever, but I am worried about the papers that are submitted that have major run-on sentences or fragments. The writing is horrible, that kind of stuff. You will lose points. And I have had people that technically got into negative points because the paper had so many errors. If they've told you in the past that you need to see someone for help on writing, please do that before you submit your paper. So that's the adolescent paper. Whoops, the early adult paper is the same way. You're just using the early adult chapters. Same thing, 2 physical terms. Pick 2 that apply to you or apply to your subject. The early and middle adulthood, many times students will use either older siblings or they will use their parents, usually for middle adulthood, and that's fine. You can do that. You are welcome to interview someone because this may not be you. If it is you, use yourself, that's fine. But most of the time, this is like older adult or older siblings. However, some of you that are over 20, you might feel like you are in early adulthood, and that's okay to use yourself also. Teenage years really needs to be for students that are 19 and under or someone else. Usually you guys are usually in the early adulthood, but you might not feel that you are. So maybe you want to use someone else. If you're concerned about that, let me know. But same thing, 2 physical, you can only choose from these terms. And then cognitive, there's a section in your textbook that talks about post-formal thought, and you must address reflective, relativistic, contextual, provisional, and influenced by emotion and wisdom. You must apply all of those for the cognitive section. Social emotional, you must have Erickson and then 3 others. And then it's the same thing. Physical is worth 10. And actually, this is the same thing. I'll change this and repost. They are worth. So these will actually, I will fix this when I'm done. They will be the same thing, 10 terms, 7.5 a piece. Okay, same thing with the last one, the middle adulthood, same exact thing. Middle adulthood, many times this is your parents or the relatives. 2 physical, 4 cognitive, 4 social emotional. Lay it out, put it together. And again, there will be 10 terms, 7.5 a piece. So when I'm grading these, if you say the term, like for example, if you say Erickson identity versus role confusion, but you don't give me any explanation and you don't apply it, you're only going to get part of those 7.5 for each term. If you lose points on this paper, in the comments, I will tell you why you lost points. So you will know exactly where you lost points. Okay. Again, all of these papers, you must explain the term or concept that you are using, explain it. So like you were teaching the class, like you were telling somebody about what crystallized intelligence is, and then you must give an example. Do those things in the order I asked. Your 2 physical, give me a heading that says physical. When you get to the cognitive, give me a heading that says cognitive, and then put all the cognitive underneath it. Then give me a heading that says social emotional, put all the social emotional underneath it. Do not put cognitive in social and social in physical. Don't do that. You will lose points. If you really want to make it easy on me, which is always appreciated, you could go in and bold or highlight each term that you are using. So if you are going to use physical changes in height and weight, strength, vision, you might want to highlight all of those in your paper. Or if you're applying crystallized intelligence, highlight crystallized intelligence and then explain to me what it means. What that does is it not only shows me what you were thinking, but it also helps you make sure that you have enough in each section. If you are concerned that maybe you will lose points on something, it is okay to maybe do 3 physical terms and 5 cognitive and 5 social emotional, just to be sure. So if one is wrong, you have a backup. That's okay. When you're all said and done, all of these should be right around 5 to 7 pages, depending on how much you apply, how much you talk about. I want detailed, I want it in order, I want it set up the way that I have it set up. You may not deviate from these terms. If you do, you will not get credit. I want the paper the way that I want it. Students on this paper, I've been using papers like this for years. The students that do what I ask them to do in the order that I ask them to do it almost always earn 95 to 100%. If you don't do what I ask you to do, those are the papers that oftentimes are a D or an F. Just do what I ask you to do. Okay. So that's all that I have on that. If you have questions, please reach out. Let me stop sharing over here. So if you have questions, please reach out and let me know that you have a question. Otherwise, I can't answer it. If you want to send me a section to look at within reason, don't send it to me the night before it's due. I'm not going to read it. But I would say within 5 days of the paper being due, if you want me to read a section or quickly review it for you, don't send me the whole paper. I can tell in 2 or 3 sentences if you're doing it right. I'm happy to review a paragraph or two and make sure that you're on the right track. I'm happy to do that, before the paper is due. So that's all, guys. Good luck. Have a great day.